Good afternoon and welcome to the little apartment on the prairie. I am here washing dishes. My kitchen's a mess. I have a million things to do today, but I thought while I was washing dishes, we'd talk a little bit about the upcoming election. And I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but I'm going to encourage you to please go out and vote. Vote like your life depends on it, because it just might. The lives of many people are going to depend on it. Decisions about health care and what to do about this pandemic and the economy, the ability to feed people's families or to put a roof over their head. All those things very well may hinge on the outcome of the election. So yeah, go out and vote like your life depends on it, because it might. And whoever you choose to vote for, and however you choose to vote, whether you choose to vote by mail or at the polls or to go in and do early voting in person, whatever you feel is the safest way for you to vote, and whoever you choose to vote for, get out and vote. But what I want to talk about today is a possibility of civil unrest, and that's like a really pretty word for riots and protests. And riots and protests are two different things. Maybe we'll see some peaceful protests, maybe we'll see some rioting, maybe we'll see some violence. We don't know what we'll see. Some people are saying they think there's going to be a civil war. I think that might be going a little too far, but I think that there could be a lot of disruption coming on. Here's Isaac. He says it's time for his treat. All right, so I think that's possible that we will see, whichever side wins, that we're likely to see a lot of unhappy people, and that some of that unhappiness may be expressed in disruptive ways, I guess. And, I'm not always opposed to protests, even if they're disruptive. I mean, sit-ins were disruptive, and that's why people of different races can eat in a restaurant together today, right? So, but it was disruptive to businesses when you had them. So I'm not always opposed to, I guess, civil disobedience is what Martin Luther King called it. But whether you support different types of protests or not, it may happen. And it may include violence, and it may not. And it may include risk to personal property, and it may not. I don't know. But my feeling is that I just want to be prepared for what might happen. And then if that doesn't happen, that's great, because I'd rather not have my city burning down. But I think it's good to be prepared. And I think it's good to be prepared for some civil unrest, regardless of where you live. Although probably big cities are more at risk for that than small towns. At least that's what I'm hoping, since I'm in a small town. But we can all be prepared. So basically, when you talk about preparing for any potential disaster, there are really 5 things you got to have. And if you look at those 5 things, it makes it a lot easier to kind of look at. It's 5 areas. Each area is very broad. One area is food, so that's pretty broad. How much food should you have? I've seen estimates, I think the Red Cross or FEMA, those organizations typically recommend you have enough food in the house for 3 days. I'm going to say even, a hurricane or a flood, things like that, then you may not get help to you within 3 days. So I would say it's probably better to have more like 3 weeks. But I've seen some people suggest that following the election, that unrest could go on from the election up until the inauguration, if the election is being contested and fought about and stuff. So, I don't know. Have a couple weeks of food in your house if you can, and if you can make that a couple months, that's great. As far as what foods to have, Isaac, bring it here, and I'll give you another one, but I'm not bringing it to you. No room service, remember? Gotta bring it here. Gotta bring it here. Bring me your gong. It's like, man, I don't have room service. I know. I wish people would bring me breakfast when I'm laying down, too, in the morning, but nobody does, right? Okay, so as far as what kind of foods, you can find a lot of videos on YouTube, my channel and other channels, about what kind of foods. But basically what you want to have is the kind of food that you and your family likes to eat. food that stores well. Have some food that you can eat without cooking in case the power goes out. Have, you know, food that you have all the necessary ingredients. So if you have boxed macaroni and cheese, if the power goes out and you don't have a refrigerator, so you don't have milk, how are you going to make your boxed macaroni and cheese? You can get the kind that has the cheese sauce in a little packet, or you could actually probably make it with water instead of milk. It just might not be as creamy, but, you know, kind of have a plan like that. If you don't have, you know, if you've got a pancake mix, but you got to have eggs to put in it, well, do you have eggs? And are you going to have eggs if the power goes out? Whatever. So anyway, have food that you like to eat and food that you can eat even if something happens like the power goes out. 2, have water. You don't have to go out and buy a bunch of bottled water. Isaac, come here. You're being very whiny. Come here. He's just being very whiny. All right. Come here. Bring it to me. Bring it here. All right, excuse me. Me and Isaac had to have a little talk. So they say you should have 1 gallon of water per person per day. And again, the Red Cross says you should have 3 days worth of food and water. So they would recommend that if you live alone that you have 3 gallons. I would say that's kind of a bare minimum, and if you have a big dog, like I would have a gallon for Isaac. My cats probably won't drink half a gallon together, but you gotta make sure you have water for pets too. But that's talking your water for drinking, for cleaning, for washing, for everything. So a gallon a day is not very much if that's the only liquid that you get. Now, if you have other drinks, you know, if you have some soda or some orange juice or some beer, you're not going to take a bath in it, right? But or wash your dishes in it, but you can drink it, and that's going to give you some fluid. So you can look at that. But I would try and have a gallon of water per person. How many days worth of water do I have? Maybe 2 weeks. I wish I had more. I don't know where to put it. It's hard to store all that water. But you don't have to go out and buy water. You can fill up containers you have at home. It's just that they're not going to stay fresh forever. So, you know, if you're going to fill up water containers you have at home, you might need to refill those every couple weeks. You can also can water. I've done a video on my channel. You can it in a glass canning jar with a lid, just like you would can jelly or pickles or applesauce or whatever, and it's very easy to do. But even so, I only have so much of it because I don't know where the heck to put it. I had it in these boxes under my bed, and now I have an exterminator coming this week, and I have to move stuff like that off my floor, and I'm like, I don't know where to put all these jars of water. But anyway, so you want to have food and water. Another thing you want to have is medication and medical supplies. So if you've got prescriptions, make sure you have enough. I've also done a video about how to get extra medication to store, like if you have prescription medications, get over-the-counter medication that you think you're likely to use. Have stuff like Band-Aids, antibiotic ointment, just basic first aid supplies. It's good idea to have a thermometer so you know if you've got a fever. I've done a couple videos about medical stuff to have on hand. Isaac, that is enough. Good grief. So the other thing, there's 2 more things you need. You need food, water, medicine, and medical stuff. Then you need shelter. You need a place to stay. You also need appropriate clothing. And I'm going to say that when you're looking at the possibility of something like civil unrest, if you live in an area that should become unsafe to stay in, what's your backup plan where you're going to go? I'm not talking about let's bug out and go live in the woods, although that sounds nice sometimes. For most people, that's not very realistic. But especially if you live in a city. You know, I had a friend who lives in Minneapolis, very near the area where George Floyd was killed. And during the protests right after his death, this friend ended up going to stay with family in another state because the area near their home seemed unsafe. There was, you know, they were burning down the police station that wasn't very far away from their home and stuff, and so it seemed like an unsafe place to be. So have a backup plan, a place to go if you need to go. If you want to have a bug out bag or a go bag or whatever you want to call it, that's great. Or at least know what you'd pack. Make sure you have appropriate clothing for the weather and that your car is in good shape and whatever if you have to go somewhere to have shelter, but you want to have shelter. So the fifth thing that you need to have is security, and to a lot, or safety things. And to a lot of people, they think that means weapons and ammo, and I'm not telling you to have that. I'm not telling you not to. I don't. I'm pretty much a pacifist. I don't. Anyway, I don't have that. But you know, having things like good flashlights and batteries is a good safety kind of thing, because if the power goes out, you'll still be able to see, making sure you've got good locks on your door. Maybe you want to have some plywood in case you need to board up a window that gets broken or something like that. You can decide kind of what that means, but have safety stuff. You know, make sure your cell phone is charged up. Maybe you want to get a charger that, I have one of those weather radios, and it has a port where I can plug in my phone and it charges it, and the whole thing charges. You can charge it by solar power. You can also charge it by plugging it in, or it's got a little hand crank you can turn. But I can just set it in the sunlight and it'll charge, and I can charge my phone that way. So having a backup way to charge your phone is a good idea, because if you're dealing with really significant civil unrest, you know, it may not help. The police may not be able to get through, but it's a good idea to be able to call 911 or call someone else for help if you need to. Have a fire extinguisher in your home. Things like that are just safety things. So you need food, water, medication, and medical stuff. You need shelter, and you need safety supplies. So those are the things that I would recommend that you have on hand before the election. Isaac, give it a break. And so I pretty much got that stuff in place already. The other couple things I'm going to do on election day, like first thing in the morning, is fill up my car with gas in case I would need to go somewhere, even though I'm in a pretty rural area and I think it will be safe here. But if I would need to go somewhere, I don't want to have to worry about stopping for gas. And I'm going to get some cash out of the bank, because if something would happen, that power would be out, you may not have access to money that you have in the bank. The ATM doesn't work if the electricity is out. Your credit card won't work at the gas pump. Well, actually, I don't think the gas pumps will work if the power's out, will they? But anyway, if like computer systems are down or whatever, if you're not buying gas, if you're buying food or buying whatever. Hi, Isaac, just a minute, buddy. Oh my goodness, what a noise. Whatever it is that you're buying, you're not going to be able to buy it with a credit card if the power's out. So having some cash on hand is good, and in like lower denominations, like 10s and 20s. And I don't know about where you are, but around where I am, like in Lincoln and stuff, and here in Nebraska, you have to have exact change at a lot of stores, because we have a coin shortage caused by the pandemic, because some of the mints were closed, so they weren't making more coins, and also people aren't spending as much. So people are like hanging on to their coins, or, you know, they're not going to the grocery store and spending their change, and then other people getting that change and, you know, passing money around as much. So anyway, having a little cash on hand is good. Keeping the car full of gas is good. And I already voted by mail because I don't want to have to go out on election day, although I imagine where I live, there's not going to be. Did you see Sassy? She just jumped. Look. Up on top of the counter, the cabinets. She's got a favorite spot to sleep up there. She sleeps in that corner. But I could see her in the, through the camera, like, go flying up behind me. She gets on the kitchen counter and then jumps on the fridge and then jumps on up. All right. So anyway, I think where I live, it's going to be safe. It would be safe to go and vote in person. In terms of like potential violence or give me your phone or protests or anything, but it may not be safe because we've got pretty high numbers of coronavirus here in Nebraska. So it might not be safe for that reason. So anyway, let me know down in the comments what you think is likely to happen following the election and what things you're doing to prepare. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and everybody have a great day.